Hi, this is Glenn Price, welcoming you to our rehearsal and performance video discussion of Allerseelen by Richard Strauss. My introduction to this work involves a personal story. In 1989, I was studying in Japan in the spring, and this is where I really got to know Frederick Fennell and the Tokyo Kosei Wind Orchestra. After that spring, during the summer, they took their first international tour together, which happened to be to Europe. The very final concert of their European tour was at the WASB conference in Kerkrade in the Netherlands. At that conference, they performed an absolutely glowing performance which included 5 encores and an audience that just did not want to let them go. And this concert perhaps represented their personal high point together. The next day, they did a clinic workshop for all the delegates that included this work. Allerseelen was originally published in 1955, but it had recently been republished by Frederick Fennell's wife, Betty Ludwig, and her company was Ludwig Music, and they republished this in 1987. Now, although the workshop was in a very large concert hall venue, the workshop itself felt very intimate. And perhaps the most memorable moment was a full performance of the work, with Maestro Fennell facing and conducting toward the audience rather than the ensemble for the entire performance. This somewhat eccentric but completely charming presentation gave the audience a glimpse into the special communication style that was possessed by him as a conductor. Here are a couple of words about the work. It's in a category of older transcriptions which may be becoming overlooked in our present time. And it's in a category as well that we need to nurture, that have artistic depth, that are free of bombast, and that emphasize the lyrical nature of the wind band. Educationally as well, it can serve as an historical touchstone or an entry into a number of valuable topics. Keep in mind that it's not an orchestral transcription, but originally for voice and piano. It possesses many ethereal elements and allusions which should be factored in, and these affect elements such as tone color, tempo, and pacing. It's very important to read a translation of the text, study the original, and have students listen to professional models of the performance. Allerseelen, or All Souls Day, depicts the longing for a past loved one, and the special day each year that belongs to the dead. It is based upon a Catholic holiday celebrated on November 2nd, where friends and loved ones who have passed are remembered. Now, this Catholic holiday, in turn, is based upon a pagan festival day, which celebrated the belief that souls of the dead could return on this day for a meal with the family. Candles and flowers would help to guide the soul back home. Additionally, in Strauss's art song, there are many symbolic references, such as the color red, flowers, and romantic love, in addition to the honoring of ancestors. There's a double gain, particularly for the students, in studying the original, for the insights that this yields to both the context and the artistry in the work. For example, the ensemble can understand how the climactic moments are neither triumphant nor aggressive, but filled with reverence and warmth. The clarinet soloist can listen to how a singer shapes phrases and releases. In all, there's a treasure trove of insights and information to be gleaned from some time studying and listening to fine performances of the original version. With all of that in mind, let's visit the ensemble and begin our demonstration rehearsal. Hello, and welcome to the CCM Wind Orchestra. We're very happy this afternoon to be able to look at this piece, Strauss Allerseelen. We're going to begin by dividing the work into 5 sections and discuss some aspects of its style and interpretation that may illuminate some of the musical details and enrich the artistic depth that this historic gem contains. Our first section will be the introduction, which begins at measure 1 until measure 24. And the first question we encounter is, what is this first sound? Is that a tolling bell, perhaps, or maybe the voice of heaven? Whatever the conductor decides, we should recognize that there's no initial tempo, but a feeling of suspension, and that the tone requires warmth, blend, and dignity. Once more, please. Thank you very much. At measure 3, the French horn introduces the opening of the melody. Perhaps because some may consider the French horn to be the most heavenly of instruments. Certainly the players are. At measure 4, we have the very symbolically important sound introduced of the chime. Clearly in this case, the tolling bell for All Souls' Day. At bar 5, the solo clarinet is introduced, which is about to take on the diva role of the singer. Very nice, thank you. Now, we're at 13, where we have the opening measure motto played in sequence 5 times, building to a climax at 18. Could we have everyone, please, starting at bar 13? Thank you. Here at our arrival at bar 18, we need to take care with the percussion, who play a full-bodied but always supportive role. The others need to sound dramatic, but always full and warm. Otherwise, they could sound angry or harsh, which would be, of course, out of context. Could we play 18 to 21, please? So let's put all of that together and we'll play from the beginning up to 24. Thank you very much. Now let's look at our next section, which goes from 24 to 41, and this begins with the main melody. 24, the clarinet takes on the solo singer role, and it's important, therefore, to allow the soloist to sing and to soar, being careful to maintain a singer's style of projection and phrase endings, finishing each phrase smoothly, and perhaps taking some time, if necessary, to complete one phrase and start the next. We have just the clarinet, please, at 24, Danielle. etc. Very nice, thank you. So especially when the clarinet drops into those lowest register, we need to be very careful about the balance in the other instruments. The bassoon, the clarinet, and the horn at first just murmur their accompaniment, but later, in particular in the flutes and the oboes, we have them joining in a more complementary fashion. We have everyone, please, at 24, listening for the clarinet melody and just the murmuring quality of the accompaniment until the rest join in harmony. At bar 30, where the melody passes to the cornets or the trumpets, and here it's important to be sure to maintain the style and the dynamic of the line. Could we hear just the cornets, the trumpets, please, at 30? Thank you. Incidentally, this is why it's very helpful to know the original so that we can easily identify what is thematic and what's accompaniment. Now, at 39 and 40, it might be useful to take an extra moment to refine the tuning by dividing into three groups. Could we hear as group 1 just the horn half notes, please? 39 and 40. Thank you. And now, second group, only the quarter notes on the beat. Thank you. And now the rest who have the eighth note followed by consecutive quarters. Here, due to the nature of the orchestration, this is the most difficult of the three groups to play well in tune. Can we provide some harmonic context by adding the D-flat chord in the horns? So play what you have as well. But the horns who are sounding a D-flat major triad through this will provide some context for group 3. Together, please. Now can we put all those three groups together, same two bars, 39 and 40, and listen in two ways, both for the D-flat triad here and also for the quarter notes in the tubas and the low reeds. Worthwhile even to take one more step and pause on every eighth so we can really hear how all of these can line up well in tune. Same thing, please, pausing on every eighth. Better. Thank you very much. So let's place all of these points into context and hear this entire section from 24 to 41, please. you very much. Well done. The next section, or the next verse, which we'll look at, is from 41 into 65, bar 65, which introduces some other new elements. At 41, the melody is now in the euphonium and the oboe, which is a new color, but not a departure of style, just perhaps reflecting a more fervent or impassioned content in the text. Could we hear just the oboe and euphonium, please, at 41 to 44? Thank you very much. At 45, the oboe is replaced by the horn, providing a moment of reflection and supported perhaps by a brief pulling back of tempo. Could we hear the euphonium and the horn, please, at 45? Thank you. Now we're at bar 50, where the melody resumes in the woodwinds and then is passed to the cornets halfway through 51. We hear the melody only, please. Melody only, starting at bar 50, beat 3. Exactly. Thank you very much. Now, at 54, for the first time in the piece, the triplet figure is introduced, which is to become important during the remainder of the piece. Could we hear at 55 and 56 just the triplet style in the clarinets and the flutes, with an awareness of how it will eventually appear later in the horns at bar 95. So this is 55, please, and 56, only the triplets. Yeah, that's lovely. Now, I expect, though, in context, it may need a bit more heaviness, a little bit more weight and definition. Can we try one more time, please? A little bit more weight and diction. Good. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to bar 57, which represents a major arrival point in the piece. We need to give this some special attention by coming off beat 4 in a richly tapered and resonant style. Could we have everyone please just this bar? This is 57. We're listening for how we release coming off of beat 4. Lovely. Here's an extra thing we can do. Listen for the resonance in the room. And if we do this beautifully well and in tune, we should get a little extra ring time on the release. Same thing, please. Terrific. Thank you very much. The rest, the notated rest on beat 1 of 58 can be slightly prolonged for the dramatic pacing and effect. And the forte piano on beat 3 of 59 should be heavy enough to grab our attention, but not in a biting style. We should perform this accent, this forte piano, I should say, quite broadly. Can we have everyone please, 58 and 59, with those two ideas in mind, 58 and 59. So let's put all of those points together into context between 41 and 65. Thank you very much. Our next section functions a little bit like a development section between bars 65 and 91. And this is how that happens. At 65, the sequences are passed through the brass and upward into the woodwinds over 4 bars. We hear just the 4 measures. From 65, only the sequence as it passes up from the brass to the woodwinds. So on each of those consecutive sequences, we need to allow the line to build and then resume the softer dynamic after that finishes. This essentially happens 3 times, building to a special harmonic moment, which is kind of the crux of the tale, the turning of the story here at bar 77. Here we might want to linger and reflect, for this is the moment of realization that transforms what is to come. Could we hear from 73 to 77, please? As reflected in the harmonic contact, represents a turning point in the mood and the storyline of this art song. So this turn of events is followed by the 1-measure motto that descends in direction, pitch, and mood. Could we hear these 3 bars of descending motto between 77 and 79, which takes place in the horn, then the trumpet, and the trombone? So this gradual descent is not just melodic, it's also kind of an emotional descent into something that is a little bit darker in character. Here we have arrived at 80. For 2 bars at 80, it sounds, as we've hit this kind of low point, emotional low point, as if it's struggling to lift its head, or at least its emotional state. Can we hear the 2 bars, please, at 80? 80 and 81. Having hit that emotional low point, we arrive at a very special turning point in the piece at bar 82, which is heralded by the first cornet. As though the skies begin to part, the heavens open, and earthly bounds are broken. Take time here to savor the change of emotional direction from despondent to hopeful. Can you hear just the solo trumpet, Sarah, please? At 83, the motto begins again in sequence, rising once more, but this time with renewed optimism and energy until the arrival at 87. Could we hear this, please, starting at 83? Thank you. And to really highlight this peak moment, we hear a brass fanfare in the horn and the cornets. Could we hear just the horns and cornets, please, at 87? I think this strikes a very nice balance of being articulate enough that it cuts through the sustained textures, but also grand enough that the regal quality of it is maintained. Now against that, we have a melody in the euphonium and trombone. Could we hear just the trombone and euphonium, please? Gathering strength as you climax. Could we just hear the euphonium and trombone at 87? Great. So can we hear those together, please? The trombone, euphonium, horn, and cornet being highlighted with everyone, starting at 87. Section, which is 91 until the end. So at 91, the melody returns with an attitude of rejoicing, buttressed by pulsing 16th notes passages in the clarinets and the flutes. Now these require some special attention and should be rehearsed separately, both for style, first of all for style, and second for balance awareness, since the sustained material in the other voices can very easily wash over and cover these important elements. So I'm going to ask you, if you would, to play this two different ways. Can we hear the 16ths only at 91, projected, deliberately, and firm? And now if we can go one step further and add more of an artistic touch to this, let's add some agogic weight or some stress by lengthening or prolonging the logical stress points within this, being especially careful on the releases. I think when we perform this, we can make this slightly even longer, kind of sticky almost. Dee-da-da-dum, ba-da-da, dee-da-da-da. All on the verge of being out of time. Up to that point, but not beyond. Thank you very much. Play all the others, please, except those at 91. So this is 91 minus the 16ths. That's terrific, and I asked you to do two additional things. Although it has a majestic quality, it is also somewhat cantabile. So rather than playing the first note this way, can we make it more singing? And keep it warm and sweet and full, but be careful the dynamic doesn't get above a level that would allow those 16ths to be heard. So minus the 16ths one more time, same place. Thank you. Let's put all of that together, please. 91 with everyone. Good. And when we perform this, I think we can project even a little bit more in the 16ths, if you don't mind. Now, at 95, in a similar fashion, we have the pulsing triplets, which were foreshadowed earlier at 55 and 56 by the clarinets and flutes. They need to come through. This now is in the horn section. We hear just the horns, please, on your triplets at 95 and 96. We'll see in context with everyone, but perhaps a fraction longer than that. You mind just trying it out that way? cue. Now let's contrast that with the triplets in the flutes, the piccolo, and the clarinets at 95 to 97. That's very good. Can I ask you to do two things? Exaggerate the articulation and project even more. Most of the other material that's about to come we've encountered before, so we can give our attention just to bringing out the trombones in 104 and the horns in 105 before discussing the final bars. We have just the trombones and the horns, 104, 105. On paper that may look like it's not very significant, but that's the closest we get to anything that could be described as a melody at this point in the piece. Okay, looking at the final three bars, here are some priorities to consider. First, we want to make sure that these final chords are pure and ringing and resonant. We also want to make sure that those who are tied over into the last measure are allowed to sound. And we need to balance from we need to listen to and balance from the chime, which provides the final kind of ethereal illusion of redemption and transformation here. So can we hear the last three bars with those three ideas in mind? Thank you very much. Mind if we do this one more time, and we're going to pause on each chord to see if we can get these even more pure and ringing and in tune. And in case there were any doubt, of course, the place to listen to is the tuba section. Those also are holding the pedal on the last three bars. Okay, thank you very much. I want to thank the Wind Orchestra for an excellent demonstration of all of these. What I'd like to do now is put the whole piece together and play through it. We'll take a short moment to tune and then do exactly that. Thank you, everyone. sincerely thank the fantastic members of the CCM Wind Orchestra for their assistance with this today. And for those of you watching, I hope that this examination of the Strauss Allerseelen has proved to be useful, not just for the piece itself, but also as a general way of approaching other works. It's an historic gem that I think deserves to be played a great deal. Hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you, Wind Orchestra, very much. Bravo.